Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 260, Fahrenheit 451. With me tonight to discuss this classic from 1966, the year of our birth, my friend, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross. Hey, Ross.
The elusive Ross, who doesn't pop into the broadcast booth until 7:00. I apologize for that, folks.
Nah, don't worry about it, Ross. And also, folks, I apologize up front. We are having technical issues. My internet is going in and out. In fact, it went out, and I'm happy to be back. But it's
the old in and out. Yeah.
So I have a feeling it's going to be one of those nights with that. So just be warned. And we appreciate your patience, and thank you for joining us on this special night, which is the 24th, Thursday. Usually we do the show on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time or on Sundays. However, tomorrow in New Jersey is Chiller Theater, and Chiller is happening this weekend, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it's only an hour away in Parsippany, New Jersey. So I am going to venture out there and go to Chiller tomorrow. So that should be fun, just for a little bit, and catch up with some other friends, and and see some of the different guests that'll be there. So hopefully, if you are out there and you're in the New York, New Jersey area, and you can attend, and hopefully we can catch up. And I will be wearing my Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner shirt, branding as usual. So there we go. All right, that's the service announcement for tonight, Ross.
Good night, everybody.
I would have thought you were a pod, Ross, if you hadn't said that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to say hi to the folks that are joining us. Excuse me. Randy is joining us from Wisconsin. Welcome, Randy. Good to see you out there. Lou is joining us from Rhode Island. Good to see you too, Lou. May is joining us from Canada. Welcome, May. And Randy's saying all good performers go right from the hotel to the stage without stopping. Yeah. Never to let them know what's going on, Randy. And Shari is joining us downstairs, and she's saying, hi, guys. Don't know if I've ever seen this movie. Shower scenes, plot, lots of laughs.
There's a bathtub scene.
Yeah, there is, actually. And Don is joining us from Delaware. Welcome, Don. I'm full of my dramatic pauses tonight because my brain is one dramatic pause. So
It's full of something.
Yeah, it really is. But anyway, we are discussing Fahrenheit 451. This is obviously, of course, this is the Ray Brad movie that is based on the novel by Ray Bradbury, which I have not read, but my esteemed co-host has read, and I believe he's read it recently. So from that, I'm going to take a back seat. And
Yeah, there we go. I knew that was coming. It wouldn't be the first time, Roy.
Ooh, Spock.
When I see this, that's when I know I'm going to carry the show.
Shoot, I needed a good laugh. It's been a rough.
That was pretty funny. You got me good. There was that use the metric system. Yeah, there was that ambiguity there because you did say you had internet problems. I didn't know if I was literally going to be carrying the show, which I'm capable of doing, but it's more fun. It's only when I bounce it off you that I come to life. Oh, there he's gone now. So now you'll get to see a perfect example of that. All right, that's all you got. I read the book and you're there. Woo! Flashing lights.
Cue cards. Oh shoot! It's good to laugh. Don is saying he reread it last year. Holds up.
Oh man, does it hold up?
It really does.
Holy hell, does it hold up?
Yeah,
I was pretty scared when I read the first half. I said, man, what was this written? I said, 1953 it was written. And he's just totally spot on.
Not just say, are you sure it wasn't written in 2025?
I know, and not just with the with the message and but with the accurate portrayal of not only the social stuff but the technology.
Yeah,
he totally got it in the book. Anyway, they didn't really go so much into it in the movie, but then every once in a while they have something that's totally not right, like the doctors all smoking in the operating room and people using non-digital stuff, but other than that, he totally predicted the flat screen TVs,
yes,
and the earbuds and the rise of comic books in our culture, like graphic novel kind of stuff. Just
almost like our podcast, our show tonight, people wanting to talk to the audience and through the television.
Well, it was this interactive stuff. Yeah, in the movie they don't really play it up as much as in the book because they only have the one screen, and she's talking about once we get the second screen, my life will be complete. Well, they already have 3 screens on the wall in the book. She wants the 4th screen. But there's just this din all the time in that living room, and she's just caught up in the distraction of these screens, and the technology just stands to alienate and isolate, which we see all the time with people looking at their phones, and
exactly.
Everybody has the earbuds in.
Medicate
and exactly, the drugs, the medication is the other thing that gets played up. And every once in a while, somebody inadvertently winds up attempting suicide because they take too many drugs, and then the guys come in and flush out the blood, and they don't remember. Yeah.
It's common practice. It's like, oh, you better not watch this.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything like this before? No. Go into the next room. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally.
Don is saying it's creepy and hilarious. That futuristic wall TV set is now almost identical to the one I watched on today. Yeah,
exactly. In the movie, I couldn't believe it. I said, "Oh my god!" He totally got the flat screen right. I mean, Bradbury, he gets the whole gist of the whole vibe. The whole what am I trying to think of? The world, the gestalt, of what it would be like to. In our contemporary, what is now our contemporary world. I can't believe that in 1953 he was so bugged out the way things were that that he would.
No, Ross, that was 72 years ago. That's crazy.
I know. I mean, how bad could things? I mean, granted, okay, we had the it was not that long after the Nazi book burnings. You had the Soviet Union with the oppression and repression and people disappearing over there. Yeah. You had McCarthyism in this country, and people having careers destroyed and because of their presumed political affiliations and that sort of thing. So this was all in the air, but I just can't believe just how dead on he got it in the early 50s. You always picture this halcyon 1950s, but boy, was there a dark underbelly. But anyway. So I did read the book, and now I'm going to talk too much.
No. It's good to have the other side. Randy said, I wasn't a fan of most high school reading material. I love this, however.
I've read my share of Bradbury, but I've never read this, and I've never seen the movie. Have you seen the movie before?
No, this was my first time, and I had no idea what to expect. I just didn't know about it, but having watched it, I really very much enjoyed it, and it makes a strong statement. And the fact, to your point, going back 70, I can't believe 1952 is like 73 years ago. That doesn't seem right to me, but it is. The fact that he was making a lot of these predictions, and he hit the nail on the head, so to speak. Yeah,
well, like I said in the book, especially, I knew what the book was about broadly. About the book burning and the firemen, and the irony of the firemen who are we have them as we have them putting out fires in our society, but in the near future they're burning the books. because the houses are all fireproof. That's the irony. They fireproof all the houses, but they gut them with fire if there are books inside. That's the penalty. So yeah, there's this kind of underbelly, this underground, subversive element of people who still read books, and they're the ones that get carted off. Or that's this first major ebooks.
Yeah.
Released. There you go. There are a lot of ironies, unintentional ironies with this book. One of them, I read it in this edition, which turns out to be like a 1967 paperback, and I'm glad I did, because I found out later, as with the Martian Chronicles, there are a lot of things that got changed in it over the years.
Interesting.
The one thing that always annoys me about the Martian Chronicles is they kept, I don't know why they do this, because science fiction is the whole point is not the year in which it takes place. It's the ideas in the book. But it's like, oh no, people are going to buy into the fact that they're on Mars in 1980 or whatever, and we got to roll it ahead to 2000. And then every few years they have to roll so it takes place further in the future.
Right, like with the Martian Chronicles, that was an example. Exactly. Hey, Deborah, thanks for joining us.
So there's a little bit of that in here. But what happened is this is a book that's on, when they ban books in schools and things, this gets banned all the time. And you read it and you go, well, why? And and the things that people get upset about are ridiculous, because it's not like Huckleberry Finn or something like that, where it has a prominent, controversial, racial slur that appears throughout the book. Even though, again, people. So yes, it's true, because Bradbury didn't find out about it, for a couple of decades, and somebody came up and said, hey, you know what? And he was out, incensed that they did that. So he said, put it back the way it was. They took out all the mild swearing in the book. I forgot there was even swearing, but like a few people say, damn it, and a few other things in there that got snipped out over the years.
So I wonder if you make the executive decisions to do that, the publishers, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. They caved to pressure, because and it's ironic, because the very thing that Montag's boss, the fire chief in the book, is going on about, is how over the years these different groups would complain, so they would start censoring the books, until ultimately they figured that the easiest thing to do was just to burn everything, because there's always something in the book that was going to make somebody uneasy, if not offend them, disturb them.
Well, you know what? Hold that thought. Isn't that kind of an irony, though? Because just what you're describing, what the story is about, here the same thing happened to Bradbury's book itself.
Where, exactly.
Where it was being edited.
totally ironic. And then Roy and I go to watch the movie, and it's not available for streaming anywhere. It's totally suppressed. So I mean, you can still buy it on home video for now, but we could not.
Or you could wire your satellite and tap into the country that is.
Yeah. In the end, we wound up watching it off of. I researched it to make sure it was not going to be like full of viruses or anything, but we wound up watching a totally illicit stream. So our computers are swarming with viruses right now. Yeah, but we'll do anything for you guys. Yeah.
Ross is like, just don't save anything.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Don't download or click on any ads or anything.
No wonder my phone is fuming.
Yeah. So if you're all right, so at this point, they built a Little House on the Prairie.
What? Really?
It's crazy. I mean, things like I'm not going to go too crazy here, because, but it's a political statement, you know what I mean? But the fact that things like the Wizard of Oz and Harry Potter get banned just because they have witches in them or whatever. I mean, if people find things to be upset about, and if you start caving to everybody, then you've got nothing left, because everybody's offended by something. I mean, that by the end of the show, all the complaints that come rolling in. And,
we lost our viewers. Randy said Bradbury was partly inspired by the rise of McCarthyism and hard times repeating themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something that goes, and I'm not a both sidism person, but this is something that goes all the way across the political spectrum. You go too far in either direction,
Sure.
it's wind up in the same place, and it's happening here all the time on both both extremes. Yeah. So it's really a prescient book. In fact, when I read the first half, I said, "This is the best book that Bradbury ever wrote." I was like blown away by it, and then it became kind of Bradbury. I said, all right. He starts when he gets to the point where he starts putting in 5 similes a sentence or 50 adjectives for in every sentence. It's he starts getting too poetic. You know what I mean? It's like starts getting a little amorphous at a point. It becomes E.E. Cummings, where he starts describing, like E.E. Cummings would describe spring as mudlicious, and the world is puddle wonderful, that kind of thing. And Bradbury starts going off the deep end like that.
Getting all flowery.
It's pretty flowery, which is funny because the book is not even 200 pages. It's 100 in this edition. It's 147 pages.
Wow, that's a short read.
Yeah, and a good one. I recommend it. It's a good book, but the first half I thought was a lot stronger than the rest of it. Because it was just so spot on. It was blowing my mind.
And I walked away feeling that way about the movie. So I mean, obviously the book's going to be a lot more detailed, and then it allows your imagination to run wild and be more descriptive with
there you encapsulate one of the appeals of the book, or one of the things that they would object to from the reading, is that you become so immersed in what you're reading and you identify with what you're reading. You know what I mean? It's a very empathetic process to get into a book, and to have your thoughts. So you start getting exposed to a lot of different characters, a lot of different ideas, and it makes you think, and it's not always a good thing, and that's again, the fire chief kind of says, people start getting mixed up when they read these things, because
the irony though is everything that they were trying to supposedly prevent from occurring was actually occurring anyway with the direction the society went. So they were blaming books for this social disconnect, yet the social disconnect was taking place anyway, and we saw it right in the household where he was coming home and he was trying to tell her Linda about his day, Julie Christie, and it was she couldn't be bothered. And then when she found out that he was potentially getting a promotion right away, it was the shallowness that came through. It was like, oh, is there going to be a raise with it? Which obviously is a positive thing. But right away she was talking about wanting the second screen, and I didn't catch that at first. I was like, what are they talking about? And then I went back and it was like, okay, so essentially it's again for the popularity of the situation.
Oh, he's freezing.
And because that are supposedly family, it's just it's spiraling downward. And the irony is that the books are not the cause. It's the social injustice that's taking place because they're being controlled.
Right, but their relationship in the movie is actually, as compared to the book, I know it's not supposed to be, but it's the model of warmth in the movie compared to how it is in the book. There's no connection at all. They can't. Wow. They do kind of say in the movie, it's like, do you remember when we got married? And they can't really remember how they met, and that kind of thing. Or the wife doesn't remember, and they have to, it kind of got lost in everything.
But what was interesting too, Ross, originally though, I mean, they were conceiving having a different actress portray the part of the wife and then also the neighbor. I can't think of the neighbor's what was her name? It's
Clarice.
Clarice. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and what they did was they wound up going with Julie Christie for this, doing the dual roles. And I thought she did a good job. I mean, supposedly she took some beatings from critics about her acting, but I thought she was very convincing as two different types of personalities though in this. I thought she handled that very well. And it wasn't just like her long hair and short hair that was, the identifying factor in this. I mean, the one person was more compassionate and more feeling, whereas the other was just more, just about the attention and just very shallow. I thought there was definitely a distinct difference between the two personalities. But it was interesting though too when excuse me, montages when when he's asked by Clarice, what is she like? And she says she's just like, she's very similar to you, meaning, Linda.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah. Yeah, and then in the book, it's very different because there's no, like, you think there's going to be a love relationship, perhaps in the movie,
Yeah.
In the book, she's a teenager. She's
Mm.
like 17 or something, and she's just one of these, quirky, exuberant kids, young women who are high on life, and they observe things that people kind of just walk past and don't really pay attention to. And I've dated plenty of women like this. they're very attractive, but don't get involved with them. but yeah, that's who she is in the book, and she drops out very early. And here in the movie, she's throughout, and she's a little older. She's a teacher,
right?
So they fabricated that.
Julie Christie was only 26 when she did this role, by the way, too.
Yeah.
But she had a long list of credits, and she had just, already established herself as far as an actress going back to 1963. So it was, a few years before. But
and we just talked about her. She was in Heaven Can Wait. We just talked about
exactly Shampoo.
Right. She was in a lot of Warren Beatty movies, and she was in Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland.
And she dated Warren Beatty. And Terrence Stamp was originally one of the considerations for Montage, but he didn't take the role for
Montag.
Montag. I keep saying Montag. Yeah. For Montag. 2 reasons why he didn't take it. One, because he had dated her, and he felt he would have been uncomfortable in that situation, and dating Julie Christie in real life several years back. And then the second thing was she was playing a dual role, and he felt that she was maybe going to get more attention and overshadow him. So
I think he would have been great in the role. Actually, he would have fit more what I had in mind for the character. For some reason, when I was reading it, I was picturing somebody like Dana Andrews or something. But when I saw that Terrence Stamp was one of the guys that had been considered, in fact, almost was a lock for the role, he would have been a good choice, I think.
Yeah. Now, Oskar Werner, I only knew because of Columbo. That was the first time I saw him, but that's the only other thing I've actually seen him in. But I know he's got a long list of things that he's done.
Yeah. Well, he worked with Truffaut in Jules and Jim. Jules et Jim, or whatever.
And they actually had a better working relationship in that movie than they did in this movie.
Yeah, that's one of the Truffaut classics. I didn't even realize it was the same guy because in that film he's speaking French. But yeah, they didn't get along at all apparently when they were doing. They had a very different idea of how the character should be done, and I guess it led to some serious friction between them.
Yeah, they supposedly, I guess they weren't even talking like towards the end. And then for spite, when they were filming the last scene, not to spoiler alert, folks, 57-year-old film, but the last scene of the film, he went and got his haircut just to blow the continuity of the movie.
I didn't even notice. Was he wearing his hat? Did
No.
they make it? Oh, he wasn't. Okay.
No, he wasn't. And then that last scene was actually filmed at Black Park. Which was kind of cool, just having been there last September for the Space 1999 convention in London. That was one of the excursion trips that we did, and that was a lot of fun. There's so many movies that I always refer to the Hammer, not only Space 1999 and UFO, but also the Hammer films that were filmed at Black Park, as well as the James Bond movies, and now this film. And what was interesting too is, and very unique, they filmed this last scene, and it took place, I guess, over Julie Christie's birthday. It was in April, around this time now. It was like the 14th of April of 1966, and they got snow, which was something that's very uncommon, and it just kind of added to the mystique of the scene.
Yeah, okay, did you hear him? Yeah, he's clawing the wall-to-wall carpet. I'm going to kill him. He gets hepped up whenever he hears your voice.
Sorry, Pip. Don is saying Stamp would have been great. Also a fan of Anton Diefring. The interesting thing too is, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Ross. Also, Jean Seberg, if I'm not pronouncing her wrong.
Seberg. Yeah.
Seberg. She was a consideration along with Jane Fonda for the part of Clarice. And the interesting thing is she was actually blacklisted in Hollywood So we were talking about, things that have happened. So it was almost like, and there was some thought that she may have even committed suicide too because of.
Yeah. I was wondering if she got blacklisted for acting because she's always getting slammed in the American movies. She was in the Otto Preminger's Joan of Arc, and I know there was not kind press for her, but she was also in Jules and Jim with Oskar Werner. Thinking about Oskar Werner, being an American, I don't know the difference between an Austrian accent and a German accent. So of course it had the creepy overtones of the Nazi book burning, because when he opens his mouth, he's got the Germanic accent. But you notice that all the characters refer to him. All the other characters refer to him by his last name. Even his wife calls him by his last name. He's Montag.
Yeah.
And his first name's Guy, isn't it?
I think so. Yep.
So it's kind of like an everyman. He's a guy. So it's kind of an interesting choice of a name.
When I hear Guy, I immediately think of Guy Williams.
Guy Williams, right?
Yeah.
So,
and he was actually, when he did this film, he was 43 years old.
Who was that?
Oskar
Werner. Okay. Yeah. Ray Bradbury took his books very seriously. You don't mess with books around Ray Bradbury.
No, right?
Because it recurs throughout his fiction, like Randy said. This is based on an earlier story he had written called The Fireman, which in turn was kind of a synthesis of two earlier stories that he had worked on that had to do with a library. It was called The Bright Phoenix. It had to do with a librarian confronting a book censor, a book burner. Then there was another story called The Pedestrian, which it doesn't really come out in the movie. In the book, though, he gets, he's walking around. There's a lot of nocturnal scenes in the book. In the movie, it's mostly daytime, which is ironic because Truffaut did another movie called Day for Night, which is about shooting during the day but putting the filter over the title comes from that, shooting during the day but putting the filter over the lens to make it look like it's a night shot.
Oh, okay.
But they didn't do that in this movie. It's just all shot during the day mostly. But where am I going with that? Oh, so he gets harassed in the book, chased by the police for being out walking at night because everybody's home watching their television sets. That's the acceptable thing to do at night. You're suspicious if you're out at night. So he took these two things and put it together into that book, The Fireman, and that became Fahrenheit 451. But the irony is, that involved a library, but there was also something Wicked This Way Comes, in which Will's dad was the librarian, then the force of good. And also, it's the other library thing. Fahrenheit 451 obviously has to do. Oh, Something Wicked This Way. Oh, we already said that. Something Wicked This Way Comes. Oh, the Martian Chronicles. There's a story in
Martian
there
Chronicles,
called Usher 2, which is not in the. It doesn't turn up in the adaptation on the TV version, but there's a guy who has his house packed with books, and somebody comes to again censor the books, take the books out, and it's a very Edgar Allan Poe kind of story. He has his revenge on the guy. So Bradbury didn't like it when you messed with his books. In fact, he credited a library with really giving him his education, and he wrote Fahrenheit 451 on a rented typewriter in the library. He went down, knocked it out in a couple of weeks, and they said they wanted it longer. So the Fireman became Fahrenheit 451. He went and rented the typewriter again and did that there. So he understood the importance of libraries, of books, of literacy. And he took it. He got furious whenever there was any kind of censorship, or any sign of any kind of tamping down of the freedom of expression.
Which goes back to what we were talking about earlier, when he found out later on that his books had been altered.
Yeah, he was not happy about that. So maybe he didn't express himself so. He got to be a kind of a cranky old man, I think, and he got a little blunter as he got older. But when he was younger, he could finesse it a little bit and get his message out there, and people go, "Okay, Bradbury, that makes sense." But as he got older, he seemed a little reactionary. But he's right.
Did you watch his television show when it was on?
I saw one of the episodes, I think, because we talked about something, and I think it was adapted on the TV show, and I watched him. Oh, Usher too, I think, was that adapted. It had Patrick McNee
Okay.
In it. So,
because I know we covered the Martian Chronicles probably
Yeah.
several years ago. We probably did
Yeah.
that maybe about 3 or 4 years ago,
Mhm.
and we also did recently, and I'll say probably last year or two, Something Wicked This Way Comes.
That's right. Right.
And I remember seeing that in the movie theater at the Easton Eric back in the day. And that's interesting enough. I could see Terrence Stamp in that role too, as the
Sure. Yeah, it's Jonathan Price.
Jonathan instead of Jonathan, and Jonathan Price knocked it out of the park. He was great.
Yeah, yeah. He was one of the best things about the movie.
Hey, Martin, good to see you out there.
Martin.
Thanks for joining us. And Randy said before, in the future, books are banned, but everyone has a giant TV wall. So basically, Ray Bradbury predicted TikTok. Imagine applying for the fire department, and your first day on the job, they hand you a flamethrower and a list of bestsellers. Yeah. Bizarre. Well, and they even discuss, it's brought up that back in the day that the firemen were not, starting the fires, they were putting them out. And it's kind of like, really? But it's not what they were used to.
Well, it's a little bit of that 1984 element too, where everything means the opposite.
Yeah.
Where the news speak, where and we hear it all the time in politics now. When somebody says something is something, it always means the opposite of what it really
right.
is. But that's what these dystopian societies always are. So the firemen, ironically, are the ones that start the fire. But they're here for your protection because they're destroying all these incendiary ideas.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining. And Jeff is joining us from out west. Welcome.
Hey, I saw a Mega Man's going to be on TCM, I think, on Saturday.
Omega Man Revisited, Ross.
Friday or Saturday, so check your listings, Jeff.
We have to do another view. We have to do a viewer's choice, which we were trying to do right before I went into the hospital. But the other thing we really need to do is have a drawing again, because we haven't done it since Jeff was on, and that's not anything against you, Jeff. Jeff saying, "Oh no, I'm tagged now." We should do anybody that would like to be a guest host on the show again. Even if you have in the past, we'll do a raffle and have somebody join us as a guest. That'd be fun.
Let them read the book. Then we can go like let the Wookiee win. Just relax.
Oh boy.
Come on and do some heavy lifting for us.
How are your allergies been, Ross? I'm totally doing a 180 on the discussion here. I am digressing tremendously.
Yeah, I don't get them. I'm sorry.
No, you're lucky. I think that's part of my problem this week.
It could happen. I'm not going to get arrogant because it could happen at any time. People just get them. But so far, I mean, maybe in the most severe circumstances with crazy pollen, I'll sneeze or something. But no, I don't have them. I'm lucky.
It's been awful. And I started taking medication last Saturday for that. I did just start to notice the green on the hood of the car, though. So this is allergy season. Yeah. See the medication. There's the tie-in with the movie, the drugs.
Are you noticing a lack of connection? Is life emotionally barren for you, Roy?
Yeah, it's the disconnect because of this freaking. It feels like a cold. Shari is saying, what happens if someone is caught reading a book? Well, they can get arrested.
Yeah, they burn the book, and then they get arrested. Everybody has incinerators in their house too. In the book,
yeah,
they're always dropping things into the incinerator. Usually, well, the Captain Beatty, his boss, Montag's boss, gives him this. We don't know if it's a cock and bull story about. Because Montag asks him, well, what happens if one of the firefighters brings a book home, kind of thing, just to feel his way around. And Beatty says, oh, well, we're all tempted by that at some point. Everybody sneaks one out at some point. We let them read the book, but afterward they have to bring it back and burn it,
Right.
And it seems that Beatty, the captain, has a very broad understanding of he's read widely. He's had to have read widely.
Oh.
he makes reference
Absolutely.
to everything whenever he speaks, and he's very familiar with all the kinds of books.
It's almost like the best of both worlds. He's seen both sides, and
Yeah,
he's playing the fence.
and yet he still destroys them. So
Right. Martin's
and
saying, where was
good.
what's up?
And he rats them. He arrests and carries out the
Almost
law.
like he enjoys it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Martin saying, where was this week's filmed? Well, this week's was, in regards to this, it's interesting that you're talking about that, Martin, or asking that. It was filmed actually at Pinewood Studios. And also it was, we were talking about Black Park for the very last scene, which I thought was really cool. And we had talked about that. There's a monorail scene that's shown, and that was, I think that was done in France, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was some experimental thing that they had built,
like on a test track or something.
Yeah, but they took it down not long after the movie, so it's kind of cool. Not in the book, but kind of cool.
And there was an estate. It was called the Alton Housing Estate in Roehampton in South London. And then also in Berkshire. So they did a lot of different filming in Europe and in the UK. So I thought that was kind of cool. And also, as we were saying, in France, and then in Black Park. In fact, Martin was in Black Park as well for the convention last year. So Martin, we may have inadvertently walked or in the area or close to the area where they filmed the last scene for this movie, which is kind of cool. So there you go.
It's interesting. I pictured more of an urban area when I was reading it, but in the movie, he kind of goes out to almost like a suburban. The houses aren't connected. He's got his own freestanding unit. At one point, when everybody comes out of the house to look when he's fleeing, that's all like one block of houses. But in the book, I picture people being more packed in than they are in the movie.
Did you think he was going to reconnect with Clarice?
Well, since it had already strayed so far from as I said, she's not in the whole. She's only in the beginning of the book,
right? In the movie,
I kind of suspected he probably would see her at some point, but
they almost had that one scene towards the end where they're kind of like, she's going in one direction and they're walking past each other, and then he's going in the other, but they literally like cross paths, but they don't connect.
Right. That would have been an irony had they not, had they been kind of in the same place and just were ships in the night and not seeing one another. But no, I don't know. I think Bernard Herrmann's music made me think they would connect.
Yeah. Okay, and there is Oscar. Now, how do you pronounce his name, Ross?
Oskar Werner, I say, but he's, you could say Werner.
Okay.
So he's reading from. Is that where he's reading from? David Copperfield?
I believe so.
Yeah. See, they changed the titles in the movie from in the book. Like he's reading more incendiary stuff in the book. And in fact, the book that he first catches and takes home is the Bible. So he memorizes the book of Ecclesiastes. Here it's David Copperfield, and it was enough to get him upset. But I can't remember.
It's the Bible in the book then.
The Bible is something that is the first. See, it's out of sequence in the movie because he's already reading the book before they burn the first house that we see. Well, actually, they burn a house at the beginning, but he gets the Bible from the house where they burn the woman's house.
I didn't realize he got the Bible. Okay.
Yeah. Well, because he doesn't in the movie. He gets. It was Gaspar Hauser, I think was the book he got, which nobody would know what that is probably. But Caspar Hauser was somebody who lived in the early 19th century who was believed to have been raised in captivity, like imprisoned, and he just kind of shows up in the world, and he's nobody really knows where he came from, and he winds up dying mysteriously. There was a movie made about it by Werner Herzog in the early 70s, but apparently it's been adapted a lot of. His story's been adapted a lot of times, but that's the book he has in the movie, but that he walks away with. And I don't know why Truffaut would pick what would be a fairly, maybe it wasn't obscure at the time, but I don't think anybody now knows what it is. unless you're German.
Mm.
Herzog would know exactly. Herzog knows all. Yeah.
Let me see. Well, and there's the chief, and that's
Yeah. Cyril
Cusack.
Cusack. Yeah.
Cusack. He did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Anton Defring. He was like the second lieutenant.
Oh yeah, and what was his purpose? He's not in the book. They set him up as kind of a rival, and
yeah, it was like Montag was like competing with him almost.
right. And you expected something to come of that,
right?
Because he sees him with Julie Christie with Clarice in the cafe when he's supposed to be at work,
right?
And the chief says, "Oh yeah, Montag called in sick,"
right?
And you see him look, and he goes, "Oh, interesting," and walks away. It's like you expected to make trouble for him, but instead he just got
for more, and nothing came of it.
Yeah. I kept because he's not in the book, so why put him in? Why create him and not do anything with him? But apparently, when Truffaut wrote the screenplay, co-wrote it with this other guy I don't know anything about him, another French speaker. He didn't speak English. His English was very, very clunky, so he was not really happy with how the screenplay turned out. But I didn't notice it being, if anything, it kind of suited the material that people would speak in kind of awkward fashion. But he preferred the French dubbed version. Yes.
Right, because he had more control with that. Yeah, maybe exactly. Well, despite they were on a limited budget, so in regards to the robot dog, I thought it was interesting because he would go to that pole when they would have the fire. They would have the alerts as far as going out to different sites. The pole would actually take them up. It was almost like I was watching Batman because with the bat poles, if they go up by itself, and the one time he's waiting for it to go up and it won't go up, and it's like his privileges had been revoked.
yeah. Which again was something they did for the movie, which was kind of I thought it was a clever touch. But yeah, the Hound is not in the movie. They make a big deal out of the Hound in the book.
Oh, and you know what? I didn't make a special card for this, but I don't know if anybody that has watched this movie or has watched it recently, when there's the klaxon going off, it is the red alert that is in Space 1999 in War Games. Just same sound effect. So check that out if you have not, for the Space 1999 fans out there.
All roads lead to Space 1999, at least with this film. Yeah, so if they didn't have money for the Hound, I guess they didn't have money for the. I don't want to ruin the book.
Yeah, that's okay.
But let's just say everything in the movie is mild compared to what happens in the book toward the end. But
and there's the image of flat screen TV.
Yes. So for anybody who came to this that grew up in the 21st century, they wouldn't think it was a big deal. They just think, with no sense of history, they would just go, oh yeah, they're watching TV. But for us who, for people who grew up in the 60s and 70s and remember with the little consoles and sometimes big consoles,
May, thanks for stopping in, and I hope the rest of your evening at work goes well, and have a great rest of the day. So thanks. We'll see you later.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on a Thursday. It's a crazy night.
Yeah.
We'll be doing this show. We're driving them out, Roy.
It's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where they were introduced, and they're strolling, talking. And there's the equivalent of comics.
Yeah. I guess you can't blow that up, but I don't know if you noticed that when he's looking at it, there are no balloons. It's just the pictures.
Yep.
I don't know if you noticed the KKK was on the comic.
I read about it, but I didn't see it.
It's reading a comic about the KKK. Yeah, there you go. Dystopia. But they make a big deal, or he makes a big deal, Bradbury does, about how this is the boss. It puts it in the mouth of the chief in the book about how the people. There were two ways that this happened. It wasn't the government pushing down at first. It was people themselves just became complacent because they had so many, electronics and distractions, and they just weren't reading anymore. They were reading. If they read, it was comics. Again, it's prescient. So many people are just reading comics and graphic novels now rather than literature. And there was another thing that, and newspapers disappeared, which is another prescient thing. All our newspapers are disappearing. People, right. Supposedly can get their news online, but that's convenient because we can get news quicker and you can change the copy quicker, but then it has a downside too, because anybody can do whatever they want. The wrong person gets a hold of this stuff.
Right.
They can rewrite things very easily and give, whatever spin they want on anything. But then the government also is using the mass media to kind of anesthetize everybody and control everybody also. So, but the people are complacent. They're complicit. They're doing it themselves, and the government just takes kind of advantage of it. So it's an interesting setup.
And again, this is 1953 that this was written.
Yeah. He saw the whole thing coming. It's kind of like it's eerie. It's like Eisenhower when you hear him talk about the military industrial complex. He has that famous speech to watch out for that. For them taking too much power and Wikipedia much.
If it's in Wikipedia, it must be true.
Yeah, stuff is always getting changed on Wikipedia.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting though. I mean, I don't know. I won't digress on Wikipedia. I read a book about encyclopedias recently, and it went up through the whole history from ancient times up to Wikipedia. And it's kind of interesting how Wikipedia developed and how they maintain that.
That's interesting that Wikipedia made the cut.
Yeah, well, it's a completely, democratic encyclopedia. Everybody can contribute to it, yeah. And everybody polices it. So it kind of takes care of it. It shouldn't work, but it kind of works. Everybody just kind of takes care of this pool of knowledge.
Right.
So it's not always reliable, but it's always active. It's always teaming.
Yeah.
So nothing is ever kind of in stasis. Yeah. But anyway.
Now you got me wondering. I wonder, in regards to Wikipedia, do you know when it started?
Oh, geez. Now, obviously in the internet age. I think it's how old is it now? Is it
It's actually 24 years old.
24 years, yeah.
It debuted on January 15th of 2001. Ouch. That's really scary, Ross.
Yeah, they pipped Encyclopedia Britannica was slow to make the jump to the internet. They just insisted on sticking to the old style of the print volumes. And insisted on doing that, and they missed the whole wave of the internet. They eventually did go to the internet, but the Encyclopedia Britannica never recovered from their former glory as the desired encyclopedia that everybody wanted in their homes.
So the encyclopedias are no longer printed material?
No, they're not. Wow. Yeah, they're online. I mean, there may be some encyclopedias. I would think it would be very foolish to be printing encyclopedias right now, though, because you can't keep the information updated unless it was something like a Kindle or something. And
here's the thing though, that I agree with what you're saying, but to be fair, things were always changing back then too.
Absolutely.
It's just that now it's like if they did publish it in a hard covered book or soft covered book for that, either way, if it was published in the physical media, the problem is it would be you could go online and somebody could say, well, they can Google it and say, well, this is actually not current because something's changed to what you're saying. It's just that before we didn't have the internet where you could do that search.
Right. And then they were always pretty careful to try to get things correct too. They also were always kind of policing what everybody else was writing, and they had a bunch of editors work on these things, but invariably, errors would make it to print. And, but it's funny because I had a book business for a time and you couldn't give encyclopedias away. People would drop them off on my steps and it's like, oh, now I'm stuck with a set of encyclopedias. And they'd either wind up in the box in the basement or I put them out on the sidewalk for $1 a volume or, every once in a while I get rid of them, but they were dead weight. But having read this book now, it's kind of like, you know, when you're growing, well, you don't know because you love all the same stuff you loved when you were growing up. But, you know, you get to a point where you kind of outgrow certain things.
Sure.
Sometimes.
No, that's happened.
But then a few years later, you get nostalgic for it. You get interested in it.
You're reintroduced to it, and then you have a different type of an appreciation than you did originally. Right. You see it in a different light, so to speak.
Right. So if you get rid of stuff, you're screwed because you go and rebuy it anyway. Right. or you feel like, oh, I really want that. And now it's like that with the encyclopedias. Having read that book, it's like there's some stuff of value in having some of these. I mean, just what they represent, like so much work went into these things, and people spent their entire, lives just pouring all of their knowledge into these things. Because some of them were really written by experts in their, the individual articles were written by, renowned experts in their fields and things. So it was the distillation of all human knowledge in 24 volumes.
All that's changed is the way it's stored. It's the way it's maintained. Yeah. It's just that we've opened the. I mean, the internet's a mixed blessing. I mean,
it's a mixed blessing.
We're able to do what we're doing tonight because we have the internet. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do that before. So I mean, it's just. But with all the pluses, there are of course the minuses of things too.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too. I mean, they can condense all this stuff into a couple of columns or maybe even 20 pages for a big subject. And that's not a lot of information, and
then you can store it on this, Ross. Here's the encyclopedia right here.
Exactly.
The encyclopedia.
But when we had these things and you read them, I mean, you really absorbed the knowledge because a lot of times you wind up reading things more than once for school project or, you would always draw on the same material and you kind of could get your head around stuff. And now we bounce around the internet. It's like Martin says, oh, the Wikipedia here. Okay, right. Next. And you've totally forgotten, a week later what you even looked up.
Well, and I think they've done studies too, where if you actually read something where you're physically holding the material as opposed to looking on the screen, you retain the information when you're holding it and reading it, as opposed to reading it off the computer.
Yeah,
I believe they've done studies on that.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of physical books. It is funny though because the older I get, the more you kind of see how muddy truth is. And that's not to say that we're lied to all the time, but right. We are. But I'm just saying. But I'm saying as far as books and things, but there are always errors and things. You know what I mean? Our concept of things, it's always changing, or we're always evolving. We find out new things.
Man, books. If books. Oh man, I'm gonna blow the quote. Books, young man. Books. Thousands of books. If time wasn't so important, I would show you where the law is. Books.
Is that the one with Elijah Cook Jr.?
It is, and I totally blew the quote out of. I'm just like so out of it tonnite.
Aren't you impressed? I knew what you were talking about.
I am.
See, I'm evolving. I'm learning.
You'll be one of us soon, Ross.
Right? You're my Star Trek encyclopedia.
Episode 15, Court Martial, first season.
See, I'll have to add that now.
Filmed the same year as this movie, Ross. There you go.
Right.
1966. All roads lead to Star Trek tonight with that. Good job, Ross. I'm impressed. Wow.
Yeah. Another thing about the book is, he's trying to memorize this book of Ecclesiastes while he's on the subway, where they're blaring advertisements at him all the time, just advertising, and he's like fighting to kind of get this in his head. And when he winds up with the book people much later, he says, "Well, I can't, I couldn't memorize it or whatever." They say, the one guy says, "No, we never forget anything. We remember everything that we ever read." He said, "You just have to at the right time, you'll remember it. You calm your head." And that's an interesting concept. I don't know if that's, if there's any factual basis in that at all though, but I would love to have that kind of recall and just remember everything, because I'll read something and I'll have a broad impression, a couple months later of what I read, but I won't remember sometimes I'll remember certain details, but I won't remember everything that I read.
Well, I thought that was a nice touch at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert, folks.
Yeah.
where essentially he's told that, to read the book, but then the books have to be destroyed. That way they're not, if they're caught, they can't be, arrested, but they commit them to memory. And then you have all these people just, walking and just reading and reciting, even with the which was a nice moment with the grandson and the grandfather,
Yes.
together. And then it was the passing of the knowledge, and just as the grandfather passes away, the grandson is assuming the next he's the next generation. It was a very nice moment captured,
right. Which again is not in the book, and they really play it up in the movie. I mean, what happens in the movie is essentially what happens in the book at that point, but they really expand on it in the movie, and I think that's one of the better parts of the film, actually.
Yeah,
the ending. And Bradbury really liked the ending. I thought, boy, Bradbury must be really hating this movie, because I was watching it because it just strayed so far from the book. I said, oh man, I bet you Bradbury was really hating this at this point. But I read that he actually liked the movie, and he especially liked the end.
Yeah, I thought that was handled very well.
He didn't care too much for the fact that Julie Christie played both parts.
Yeah, I mean, she handled it all right, but here's an example of the them burning the books in the house. And to your point earlier, the house is fireproof.
Yeah, and now that was a very Hitchcockian scene, by the way.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Bernard Herrmann's music, the way it was filmed, it was, and Truffaut was a big fan of Hitchcock. He wrote this book that's been around forever. It's kind of a staple of any kind of film studies, where he interviews Hitchcock about all of his movies and his techniques and things. So I've had this since high school.
Wow, very nice, Ross.
Yeah, it's really worth reading. Only a few pages devoted to each of the films, really, but it's very informative. So for a foreign director, a French director, he kind of had a maybe things were different back then. I don't know. It just seems like, people knew kind of who he was here, even if they hadn't seen his movie. Between that and of course, Close Encounters, he turns up as Lacombe and the Steven
right
film. Yeah.
And this is the only film that he made that was filmed in color.
Oh, that's interesting. Truffaut?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I thought The Bride Wore Black was in color, but I'm not sure.
No, well, no, I'm pretty sure that this was the only one. This was the closest one.
It was the only one in English. I know that.
But I think it was. Shari just said they could have taken pictures of the book's pages with their cameras. There would be a lot of developing a film, lots of laughs.
yeah. One thing he didn't predict was the cell phone.
Right. Exactly. Hey, Dennis Chevalier is joining us. Hey, Dennis. Thanks for joining us. And he's joining us from Canada. Yeah, that was a very disturbing scene where she did not want to leave, and he was
right.
They were trying, as
it is in the book. It's disturbing, also. Yeah, that kind of really gets to Montag, where everybody else just kind of just walks away. And
yeah, what did you think of these guys flying around?
Yeah, they are not in the book. They're no jetpacks. They couldn't afford the Hound, so they came up with these guys. I thought you could see the wires, but I guess those are kind of antennae that are on the thing, aren't they?
Yeah, they're antenna, but I agree. Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
It was just the backs. What is it? The back screen projection.
Yeah, and then
here's
them.
The end sequence when they're reading.
Yeah, that was well done.
It was very enjoyable, very really good movie. I'm curious if, for the folks out there, has everybody seen? I know Shari hasn't, but has everybody else seen this film? Is my question. And if you have, what are your thoughts about it? Please share, and we'll come back to that.
I was kind of surprised that the books that they were reading or that they were memorizing weren't necessarily. I mean, they're all classics, but they weren't necessarily more important books. Like, they weren't philosophy, and they weren't. Right. Things that we would consider the political science or just science. hard science. They weren't things like that. They were all, Pride and Prejudice and Edgar Allan Poe and Charles Dickens and, Tolstoy and things of that stuff.
Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe. He was reading what? Tales of Mystery and Imagination?
Yeah. Which, again, was something they just did for the movie. Let's see, what else was different? The monorail was different. Julie Christie playing the two parts, especially the Clarice, totally different. The jetpacks, the Bible, we already talked about. How they handled the book people. There's only one flat screen. The Hound was not in it. And there's an important character in the book that never appears in the movie by the name of Faber, who's a former college professor who Montag kind of develops a bond with, and he kind of helps Montag navigate to get out of this business with the firemen, which goes horribly wrong, as it does in the movie. I mean, basically what happens in the movie is what happens in the book, but you don't have Faber, because he has a little thing in his ear, Montag does, and Faber's like telling him, no, you got to get out of there. You got to get out of there. And he's trying to trap you. But yeah, there's a whole subplot with him, with the professor and the Hound.
The Hound.
So that never turns up in there. Oh, did you notice the shout outs to Bradbury? The earpieces, exactly. Yeah, we had mentioned the earbuds. They don't call them that. They're like what do they call them? They call them like seashell.
I even forget.
Yes. That's all I had known. I mean, I knew about the movie, but that's all I knew of the movie was that Bernard Herrmann Fahrenheit 451 suite.
Interesting, and I know we'll be talking about Bernard Herrmann shortly, but I couldn't help but hear bits of Lost in Space in he did the pilot.
Oh,
Place to Hide.
Right.
And I was picking up little tidbits of that when I was, listening.
Yeah.
He's very distinct.
Yep. Did you notice there you go. Did you notice the shout outs to
Ray Bradbury, you were saying, yes.
Yeah, Bradbury in the movie, they were burning the books,
Yes.
They had a couple of his books go in. And then at the end, somebody said, when they identify themselves as the books, he says, I'm Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles. So, and Truffaut has kind of a cameo too.
Wasn't there a reference to Mad Magazine in there too?
Yes, they burned a Mad book. And Mein Kampf. They burned Mein Kampf. I thought that was great.
Oh, going back real quick. Randy Lee asked, what about comic books? Were those
No,
burned?
all I saw burned was the Mad magazine, the Mad collection. But yeah, the comics they didn't burn apparently. They were okay. As long as there's no text.
They made the cut.
I guess it would all have to be what was the was it Henry? I can't remember the comic strip where there was never any dialogue. I guess there's several of those with no balloons. They were just all visual. But that's the kind of stuff they would read. So, yes. So one of Truffaut's books got burned too. He contributed to a book of film criticism, and it was burned on screen. Yeah. And you had a lot of a disproportionate number of French books. I don't know if you noticed that they were all like some of them were French translations that were being burned. Which, obviously because he directed.
Right. That was his nod.
Yeah. But what about it was such a hullabaloo, like when they burned, wouldn't you just, especially if the houses were fireproof, wouldn't you just take the flamethrower and burn the books rather than, you got to set up the table and put them out on the table? And
you would think, I mean.
Carry them out in sacks. Yeah.
It was very surprising when all that happened at first.
Yeah.
And then you become numb to it. But again, that one scene was really disturbing where she wouldn't leave, but that was that.
Yeah. And I have to say it was disturbing to actually see the books burned, because it wasn't CG. I mean,
it was a real
books.
thing. Absolutely.
It's a visceral thing to see a book burned.
Definitely. And then Bernard Herrmann.
Bernard Herrmann. Oh, I didn't say about Truffaut, but I mean, obviously, you have it right at the bottom of the screen. He was, one of the founding voices of the French New Wave. He was a very important French filmmaker in that school, where they were all fond of American movies and everything, but they kind of threw away a lot of the conventions of making movies, and they kind of played with expectations and reality, and they were kind of an upstart group of filmmakers. I thought for all that, this was a fairly straightforward movie. I didn't see anything in it that kind of disrupted the way the story was told, or anything unconventional in the telling of the story. But he was a very respected world a figure from world cinema. One of his most important films, which I have never seen, I was going to try to watch it before we talked about this, is a film called 400 Blows, which I think is a coming of age story. It's about when he was a boy.
When did that come out, Ross?
Late 50s, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Late 50s, early 60s. It was before this. I did see Day for Night. I saw Jules and Jim. I saw The Bride Wore Black. And now I've seen this one. But I haven't seen all that many of his movies. Did I say Day for Night? I saw Day for Night, too.
Yep.
But 400 Blows is supposed to be the one to see. So if you want to start with Truffaut, take a look at that. After this one, of course. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. I will myself, too. I've been meaning to watch it for years. And Bernard Herrmann, there he is, much younger, probably. That's probably Bernard Herrmann in the 40s.
40s, yep.
One of the great film composers, possibly, if we're going to rank film composers, of American film composers, he may have been the greatest, just because of the way he thought about music and film. He's not always a melodically driven composer. He came up with great melodies, but it was really his mastery of the sound world of the film score, like the orchestration and how he thought about different sounds with the images. And like you said, it kind of reminded you of Lost in Space, or, in the first season of Twilight Zone, he had a very atmospheric theme. He was a master at that kind of thing, very innovative and novel with his orchestrations, which made him kind of modern. But at the same time, he had a kind of a reserved romanticism. He kind of held his cards close to his chest, but there was kind of a warmth there where every once in a while he just comes up with an effusive, it's not effusive, but he comes up with an insinuating love theme or something. Or it could be a little desolate, but it kind of hurts your heart. So he came up in radio. He was working at CBS Radio, and one of his colleagues was Orson Welles. And Orson Welles had Mercury Theater on the air, for which they had the notorious War of the Worlds broadcast. You would adapt classic novels to the radio. War of the Worlds was one of the things that he did and caused the big panic here, supposedly, over in Grover's Mill, where Roy and I visited the monument that they have, that they set up to commemorate that radio broadcast. But when Welles went to Hollywood to do Citizen Kane, Bernard Herrmann followed him and did the score for Citizen Kane, first film score. And within a year, he'd won his first Academy Award for a film called All That Money Can Buy, which we know now is The Devil and Daniel Webster. At the time, it was called All That Money Can Buy because there was another movie out at the same time that had a similar title to The Devil and Daniel Webster. So they didn't want to confuse audiences. But that's a fun movie, too. It has Walter Houston as Mr. Scratch, as the devil, the New England, Faust story. And Stephen Vincent Benet, the guy who wrote Devil and Daniel Webster, actually was from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Oh, there you go.
Local boy.
Yeah, right down the road.
So as time went on, Herrmann got involved with fantasy. He did all kinds of movies, but he became closely identified with all the films that Ray Harryhausen did in the 60s. He did Jason and the Argonauts, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Three Worlds of Gulliver, Mysterious Island. So you associate him with giant crabs or battling skeletons. Or he also did The Day the Earth Stood Still, and you remember the theremins and the harps and just how eerie that score was. But more than anything, he was associated with Alfred Hitchcock's movies in the 1950s and early 60s, and he had a very definite sound for those, and became a very close collaborator with Hitchcock. Well, what happened was there was a film called Torn Curtain that Hitchcock had directed, and Herman wasn't real good at following directions. You know, you would tell him what to do, especially if it was the higher up you were in authority, the more likely you were to get like backlash from Herman. So in the 60s, you know, after, you know, rock and roll took off, and they were trying to attract a younger crowd to the movies. So they always want a title song. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but once you get into the era of like Henry Mancini and you know, yeah, but there's often a title like Moon River, and that's, even though that's not for a kid. But there were more, and Dmitri Tiomkin, even with the westerns, with High Noon and with War Wagon and Guns of Navarone, there's always a song over the opening credits, and that's to sell the movie. Right. So they wanted Herman to do something like that, but that wasn't Bernard Herrmann's style. Yeah. So Hitchcock said, "You got to do this, or you know, or else
you're out."
So of course, Bernard Herrmann writes the music, and Hitchcock comes to the recording session, and there was no popular song, so he kicked them out. So that was a rift. There was no more. That ended their collaboration, which is a shame, because they were, you know, I don't have to say, you know, everybody knows. Yeah, they know Psycho and North by Northwest and Vertigo, and you know, they worked so well together. But before he got fired, Ray Bradbury happened to be there and met Bernard Herrmann, and he met Hitchcock, and he went later and talked to Truffaut and said, "I think that you should get Bernard Herrmann to do the music for Fahrenheit 451," because he had just been fired. I mean, this happened, you know, the same year. Like
now, before you go on, Ross, I read that I guess Bernard Herrmann was suspicious about Bradbury wanting him.
Oh, okay.
Probably because after what had happened with him and Hitchcock, I'm assuming. But I didn't mean to cut you off. But go ahead.
No, it's possible. Yeah, tell me what you read. If
that's what I did. And then what happened was Bradbury pretty much told him, you know, his convictions and why he was interested in having him, and then that pretty much sold Bernard Herrmann on it. But I guess at first he was a little hesitant.
Yeah, he was pretty suspicious of everybody. He's a funny character. He totally acerbic. He was like everybody. He's just a crank. You know, he was always cranky, always bitter. But you know,
you're out to get me.
But he had a sensitive side. You could tell that he had a part of it, and it was kind of just like a shell. But nobody wanted to be around him for any length of time. He was just a bastard. But
a crazy musician. Is that what you're saying?
Crazy musician, but a very talented man. But I think a very sensitive man,
sure.
and therefore very abrasive.
Right.
Just as kind of a protective thing. So he got so embittered from the Hitchcock experience, he just left Hollywood and he went and lived in Europe. So for a time, he lived in London, and during that period, that's when he did films like Fahrenheit 451. He did Bride Wore Black for Truffaut. We did a film called The Night Digger that actually had Nicholas Clay, who played Lancelot in Excalibur, where he plays a psychopath with Patricia Neal. Nobody knows that movie.
Ross, didn't he do the Day the Earth Stood Still also?
Yes, in the 1950s.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back, but
no, that's definitely with the theremins and the harps and the electric strings. You know, where
and that music was used in Lost in Space too, which is in the pilot. It was used
right. So you know, he had a very colorful orchestral style, but he could write very melodic music too for when it was required. So anyway, when Truffaut approached him, he said, "Well, why do you want me?" Because Truffaut was friends with all of these French avant-garde composers, and you know, you're friends with Pierre Boulez, you're friends with Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, and Boulez says, "Well, they're going to give me music for the 20th century, and your music is going to be for the 21st century." So Bernard Herrmann liked that kind of sweet talk and said, "Okay, I'll do it."
He sold me.
He sold me. Yeah. So the music for this, one of the things about Herrmann is he watched a film and he kind of got an idea of the palette, you know, what it was going to be like. So for something like Jason and the Argonauts, it was all wind instruments and percussion. There were no strings. For Psycho, it was all strings, nothing else. for this movie, he used strings, harp, xylophone, vibraphone, marimba, and the glockenspiel.
Wow.
So there were no winds in the orchestra, but that's just the sound he heard in his head when he watched the movie. I thought it was a pretty memorable score. I like that image with the firemen hanging onto the side of the fire engine when they have the xylophone going.
Absolutely, it totally worked.
Yeah. So,
well, and that's just it. I mean, it gives we've talked about this too. The music gives the movie personality.
Yeah, and then late in life, Herman, there was a whole wave of directors that grew up with him watching the Hitchcock movies and stuff that wanted him to come back. So he worked with Martin Scorsese on his Taxi Driver, and he did Brian De Palma movies. He did Obsession and Sisters, and he did, for Larry Cohen, he did It's Alive.
It's Alive. Oh my God. I saw that came out, what was that, 84?
Oh, it was earlier than that, wasn't it? Was it that late?
Maybe 81?
Nah, I think It's Alive was the 70s.
Is it? Or maybe, you know what it was? I think they showed it. I think I remember seeing that film with John Risco. And
for some reason, I think it's because he died in 76, I think. He died on Christmas Eve, actually. He just finished the recording Taxi Driver.
Wow.
And he went back to his hotel and he had a heart attack and died in his sleep.
It's Alive.
Right after he finished.
Okay, I was wrong. It was 74.
74.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a memorable movie.
Yes, it was. But we saw that in the theater.
He did the music, believe it or not.
That's crazy. I just want to catch up on a couple of the comments. Lou said, I haven't seen the movie, but I have a Bernard Herrmann CD with the Fahrenheit 451 suite on it.
Yeah.
Martin said, didn't Woody Allen movie Sleeper do a similar ending where people memorize plays instead of books? Jeff Rubel
I've seen that movie so many times, I don't remember that. Yeah.
Journey Center of the Earth, one of my favorites of his.
Yes.
And Martin said, yes, put a song in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid that didn't fit the narrative.
Raindrops keep falling on my head. Yeah.
And then Randy's saying, who needs Wikipedia when we have Ross?
Yeah, except Ross forgets everything. You think Ross, the man who everything has gone through here, but it's gone immediately. Every once in a while it'll pop back in, but yeah. If I were younger, I'd be invincible, but at this point,
Ross would have the world.
I'm like a sputtering fuse.
Oh wow!
Is it going to blow or not?
It's going to blow. It's going to blow. Thanks for all that information, though, Ross. That was impressive. All right. Well, we're going to wind it down, and we're going to go to the shout outs. Oh, the Ghost of
Mrs.
Muir.
Ghost of Mrs. Muir is one of his most melodic, romantic scores. Yeah, with Rex Harrison and
Rex Harrison. Wow.
And
who was Mrs. Muir in that?
She was. I think it's the woman that was in Laura. What's her name? I know what it is. I know what it is. It's she was in Plymouth Adventure with Spencer Tracy too.
Jean Tierney.
Tierney. Yeah. Yes.
And Natalie Wood was in that. Wow.
Oh yeah. That was in her Miracle on 34th Street phase. She was just a kid.
Yep. George Sanders was.
George Sanders plays the cad. Yeah.
Wow. God.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's another time. It's another time in another place.
Yeah. Good movie though.
Yeah. And then there's the series.
Yes, with Charles Nelson Riley.
Yes, and Edward. Oh my God, he was the ghost. Oh my goodness.
Oh right, yeah. I would never remember.
Knight Rider. I can't think of the guy. Yeah.
Oh, was that him? The one that did Kit?
No, he was the scientist. He was.
Oh.
He was.
I never watched the show. I remember when it was on though. I think were we out of high school at that point, or was that on when we were in high school?
He was on when we were in high school, and then after high school.
Okay.
It overlapped. We actually should cover the pilot for that show.
Ooh.
Just the pilot, not the whole series, just the pilot.
All right. When we want to camp it up, we'll do it.
That would be fun.
When we're not doing Zsa Zsa Gabor on Venus movies.
Or thank you, Lou. Edward Mulhare. I couldn't think of it.
Okay.
And thank you, Martin. I was
Yeah.
the allergy meds. It's blocking transmissions. Oh boy. Anyway, alrighty. Going to the shout outs really quickly, and then I'm going to come back. So with that, let me bring this up. Bringing you creative awareness through our shout outs. How's that for a tagline, Ross? Are you buying it, Ross?
I want them shouting it at me on the subway while I'm trying to memorize Ecclesiastes. Bringing you creative awareness through our shout outs. To everything there is a season.
You want me to sing? All right. If you are in the Belvedere, Harmony area of New Jersey, shout out to Country Gate players. Country Gate, Bill has rehearsals going on right now, and Country Gate is back for the season. And May 31st through June 8th, they're doing Death of a Salesman, and it's got a nice size cast. Wish I was in it. Wish I had auditioned. Wish I could have done it, and nowhere near close. ready to do a performance or even attempt to do a performance. This is tough enough right now. So with that said, if you want to check out the website, go to Countrygate's website, which is www.countrygate.org. Also, our friend Bill has a website of his own in which he posts different things that he has going on as well. And that is www.billscorado.com. So check out the dates. And again, if you're in the area, Death of a Salesman, it's going to be an awesome show. Mike and Mary Beth for Sci-Fi Distilled. They are on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. I don't know. I don't think they were on last night because I went back to actually just to watch, and I didn't see that they were on unless I missed it. So I am not sure what they're doing next week, but they probably wouldn't. I mean, today's Thursday. Mike and Mary Beth usually decide that like on Sunday or Monday. So with that said, check out their Facebook page and you can see what they're doing. And then again, that's Mike and Mary Beth for Sci-Fi Distilled, and they're on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. And then also our friend Captain Phil's Planet, WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. The captain's schedule is on alternating Thursdays from 4 to 5, and then he's also on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. So definitely check him out. I don't know if the captain's going to be at Chiller tomorrow or this weekend. I have to find out about that. But anyway, Captain Phil's Planet. Also, our friend Jeffrey Morris. Jeffrey is going to be doing a special preview showing of private showing of the Eagle documentary, which is taking place. It's the Eagle Obsession. And for information, you can go to the website. This is going to be www.eagledocumentary.com. They are going to be showcasing this at Wonderfest. So definitely check that out. I have a slide for Wonderfest. That's going to be May 31st and June 1st. So it's going to be a special screening of the Eagle Obsession to be shown there. So definitely mark your calendars for that. And again, for the website. And also Lou, our friend Lou is out there. Lou has done Found in Space. Lou, if you want to share the URL for the movie, this was the latest film that Lou had produced, and it's available for streaming on YouTube. So definitely check that out. And then also, my friend Warren and I were working on the weekly episodes of Space 99 podcast. This episode, we're kind of on a brief hiatus right now. The next episode to be released will be episode 21 from the first season, which is The Infernal Machine. So stay tuned for information regarding when that will be, but it will be coming not too far away. And as I was just mentioning about Wonderfest is May 31st and June 1st. And our friend Nick Tate is going to be there at Alan Carter. And also there's going to be a lot of guests there too. Marta Kristen, I think, is going to be there too, Ross. Judy Robinson from Lost in Space. There's also going to be, I think Darren Dockerman is also going to be there from the Inglorious Trexperts. So it's definitely going to be an interesting convention. This is taking place in Louisville, Kentucky. It's an annual event, and this is the 35th anniversary. And again, the Todd and Gordon are going to be celebrating with Jeffrey the 50th anniversary of Space 1999 taking place, and that's going to be at the convention. So definitely mark your calendars. And again, www.wonderfest.com. Also, in regards to events, Star Trek Original Series Set Tour is going to be showcasing William Shatner June 27th, 28th, and 29th. And if you have not been up there, definitely check it out. Again, James Cawley has done amazing things with the set tour up there. The website is www.startrektour.com. I'm actually planning on being there to help with all the Trek fans and fans to volunteer to while William Shatner is up there. So it should be a fun time. And again, that is going to be taking place towards the end of June. And then also joining him will be Franz Nguyen and Barbara Luna. They will also be there as well. So mark your calendars for that. And speaking of Space 1999, about Space 1999 celebration. Now, before I go to this slide, just want to give a shout out to the 59th anniversary celebration of Star Trek is taking place in Las Vegas. It's every year the Creation Convention does. Nick Tate is scheduled to be there, and also I believe Barbara Bain as well. So that is going to be taking place, and that will be, I'm sure that'll be announced further. Just wanted to give a heads up to the folks out there about that. But this September in Los Angeles, 1999, we are going to be celebrating the 50th anniversary celebration of Space 1999, and it'll be September 12th through the 14th. For website information for this convention, www.space199950years.com. And also, it's going to be a special event too, is that there is going to be a tie-in with the Italian convention that's going to be taking place in Italy. And we're going to do a virtual event that will be crossing over at the same time. So folks will be able to tune in as well. So this will be the first time that that's done. So very excited about that. So definitely mark the calendars. This should be a very exciting event. Barbara Bain is going to be there, as well as Nick Tate, and other guests have been announced. If you remember the Immunity Syndrome from Space 1999, not Star Trek, 1999. Carl Held is going to be there. Carl Held was in the Star Trek episode The Return of the Archons, and also he was with Martin Landau in the episode of The Outer Limits, The Man Who Was Never Born. So Carl Held is going to be there. Carl Held, God bless him, he's also 93, and he's very, very approachable, very nice, and he's actually been on the show as well. He partaked in the virtual Space 1999 event, and there will be other folks that will be there too. So definitely check out the website for that. And I want to give a quick shout out to my son, Ryan, Run by Ryan, Empower Your Run. Ryan does an online coaching service, and if you'd like to register, you can register on their website. It is free, but if you want to basically sign up and to get coaching, then there are different levels and different tiers for that as in regards to the pricing. The website address is www.runbyryan.com. And also want to give a shout out to Martha for Studio One Thrift. There's a physical store location as opposed to the being able to order virtually online. And that address is 115 Clinton Lane in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, if you're in the Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania area. And with Studio One Thrift, you are able to get showcased a fantastic lineup all seasons long, all year long. Quality, stylish, affordable clothing for both men and women. And you can receive styling tips and informational updates, but you just need to register on the website. And that website is www.studioonethrift.com. And be sure to subscribe to do that. And then Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got going on.
All right. Well, these are the 3 recorded shows I've got on KWAX, which can be streamed anywhere you're listening. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. And this week I'll be focusing on The English Abroad. They're all films about English traveling. Enchanted April by Richard Rodney Bennett, set in Italy. A Passage to India by Maurice Jarre. The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel with an Indian setting with Thomas Newman's music. And Around the World in 80 Days by Victor Young. So that's Friday night at 8 o'clock. Since we're not on, you can actually listen to the show. That's Eastern time, by the way. It'll be 5 o'clock on the West Coast. Sweetness and Light is my light music show. That's on Saturday. This week is the birthday of William Shakespeare. We don't know really when he's born. Everybody kind of says, well, he must have been born on the 23rd because he died on the 23rd. We like that symmetry. We have his baptismal date, though, and the baptismal date is the 26th, so that's Saturday. So I'm doing all music inspired by Shakespeare plays for that show. So mostly comedies. I got some Romeo and Juliet music on there, too, but Merry Wives of Windsor, Much Ado About Nothing, As You Like It, and Midsummer Night's Dream. Saturday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. Lost Chord is Saturday night at 7. That's unusual and neglected repertoire, unusual and neglected classical music. And it's all music this week inspired by the writings of Alexandre Dumas, the writer who is best known for Three Musketeers, Count of Monte Cristo. But that program will have music inspired by some of Dumas' plays, Caligula by Gabriel Fauré, Joan of Arc at the Stake by Franz Liszt. There's also a piece called Ascanio, a ballet by Camille Saint-Saëns. And then I have something inspired by Three Musketeers by English composer George William Hesp. So the program's called The Lost Sword. You can enjoy The Lost Sword on The Lost Chord on KWAX at the time listed there, 7 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday night. And I write little teasers on my Facebook page, a classic Ross Amico. So the day of the show, you can find out, I'll remind you when to listen and what's on the show. So thanks, Roy.
Thanks, Ross. Very cool.
Thanks.
And just to remind everybody, we will not be having a show next Friday, which is May 2nd. So there is no show next Friday. So mark your calendars. We will not be doing a show then. However, we will. I'll be returning. Ross will not be on Sunday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Stay tuned as far as what we'll be covering. I guess I just walked in to talk about Star Wars, maybe, but actually I have something else planned. But if what I have planned does not work out, maybe we will do something on Star Wars. Why not? It's the 4th, right? And it's the made up Star Wars holiday with May the 4th be with you.
Oh, is it Earth? Is it Life Day?
Is it Life Day? I always considered Life Day being like November.
More like a Thanksgiving. Because of the special.
Yeah, that special was special.
It was so special. Special needs special.
Oh, that's special.
I'm going to get canceled.
Especially awful. But anyway,
coming here.
Yeah. So mark your calendar. So planning on a show on May 4th, and we've got some other cool stuff planned ahead. So that's with that. And then, as I always like to remind everybody, if you have not followed or liked or shared, please do so on Facebook, as there is no additional cost to you to do that. And just please spread the word. And if you have not subscribed and shared on YouTube, please do so. There is no additional cost for that, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for that. And the other thing I wanted to say is it was Earth Day on Tuesday, so happy Earth Day to everybody. Also, our friend out there, Deborah, I just wanted to say it was her birthday on Tuesday as well. So happy belated birthday, Deborah. Hope you had a
happy birthday
day. So happy birthday. Just wanted everybody wish Deborah a happy birthday. And I'm just checking some of the comments. Bill, no worries. And I'm sorry I had an issue getting on and that Facebook was not working. So sorry about that. But thanks for joining us. Even, anytime is fine. Even if it's on the rewind, we appreciate it. And we always hope that everybody enjoys the show. And that's great news, Lou. Glad to hear that about the movie. So it was so much fun to do. So thank you for that. And just putting the last comments out there. So anyway, with that, looking forward to the Chiller Theater tomorrow, Ross. That should be interesting.
Enjoy.
Yeah. So have you ever been to Chiller?
I have not.
You've not been to Chiller?
No, I've not been to Chiller.
Interesting.
Is that going on my record? Just put that in my file, Roy. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, for the folks that are curious about Chiller and to know what I'm talking about, there we go. So Chiller, here are the guests. This is going to be all weekend long. I'm giving Chiller a shout out here. This is April 25th through the 27th this weekend. So Linda Blair is going to be there. Just some of the folks that are going to be there.
Jimmy Gershon.
Yeah. Muse Watson. Geraldo Rivera is going to be there.
Can I get him to sign my breast?
Michael Madsen. Oh boy, and the list goes on there. So there's different folks. Loretta Swit. It's a MASH reunion.
Yeah.
Jamie Farr.
Oh, he got canceled.
He got canceled. Bummer.
Peter Riegert. He was in Animal House.
I remember him in Animal House. Yeah.
Austin Delancey. Yeah.
My God, that's like a 40 movie. That's crazy. Kim Richards. Do you remember her from Witch Mountain?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
What's Happening?
Oh my goodness. What's up, Dwayne? What's happening, Raj?
Yeah. Rerun.
Hey, hey, hey.
John Ratzenberg from Cheers.
Yeah.
Lydia Cornell from Too Close for Comfort.
So is there admission to get into this, or do you just pay when you get for the autographs?
No, there's an admission to get in. If you get there super early, like an hour earlier, it's a little more. It's a little bit more expensive. I think it's like $10 more, but I'm not sure of the prices, so I'm not going to say what they are. Michael Biehn.
Oh yeah, there you go. And Eric Roberts is he an Academy Award winner? He's nominated certainly a bunch of times back in the day.
Yeah, I think might be. Oh, Eliza Roberts. She was in Animal House.
Oh yeah.
Michael Biehn in Aliens. That was a great film. Stuttering John.
Wow. So I guess, yeah.
So the list goes on.
Yeah.
And this is the spring show. So there's quite a lot of people.
You should get yourself a table, Roy.
Yeah, right. We should actually plan on doing that sometime. Oh, Gregory Harrison. It would be fun to have him on and talk about Logan's Run.
Well, if you have to pay for autographs, I don't know if he's washed up enough to come on our show, Roy.
He's not washed up, and he was on Trapper John MD.
I know. I'm just speaking colorfully.
No, I know. If anybody's washed up, Ross, we are. Especially after your last comment.
You have to be somebody before you can be washed up. That's the thing.
Oh, shoot. Anyway, we're just having fun tonight. Thanks, Lou. Anyway, with that, that's what's going on tomorrow. So
physical media, folks.
Yep, read the book.
Get your books. Hang on to your home video, because they change the books and they take the movies off streaming. So
yeah, and exactly. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole tonight, but yeah, that's true. So yeah, definitely preserve.
Yep.
Preserve the preservers.
Preserve it. And read the book if you haven't read it yet. It's a good book.
Yeah. So yeah.
Especially the first half.
With that said, everyone, take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great Friday, great weekend, and LLAP is like we like to say. And any last words, Ross?
I already said them.
I'm dragging this out. All right. Oh, Catherine Speck is coming on. Oh, we got to start all over. Hey, Catherine. We're just signing off.
Start all over. Hi, Catherine.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner.
In the meantime, my computer's going to die. So.
Oh, there you go. Anyway, thanks for joining us, Catherine, even if it's in our last hour.
It's good to see you. It's good to see
Episode
you.
260. So, anyway, take care.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.